This is the Bax and Grant Sports Show presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Bax.
This is Grant.
Welcome to a Wednesday edition. Grant, you know what that means.
Wednesday. I don't know what that means.
Oh, it's hump day, Grant.
Oh, right.
You always give me a Wednesday hump day.
Hump day.
There it is.
Yeah,
it's Wednesday. It's hump day. It's all good. It's midterm week for those of us that are still in college, but we are just 2 days away, Grant, from going to Florida.
Still seems like a mile.
It really seems like 6 years away.
Miles to go.
Exactly. Miles to go before we get to Florida. Literally, figuratively, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, everything possibly.
All of those things.
Everything. But Grant, the good people of the world, this is the Bax and Grant Sports Show. Where can they find us if they want to check us out on a daily basis?
They can find us on Facebook at the Bax and Grant Sports Show. Can follow us on Twitter at BG Sports Show, and they can email us bgsportshow@gmail.com.
Indeed. You can also check us out Monday, Wednesday, Friday right here at 9 a.m. Central on Spreaker. You can listen to us live. You can also listen 12 to 3 Eastern or 11 to 2 Central, or I'm not even going to convert the rest of them because that requires math too early in the morning. You can listen to us for 3 hours on sportsradioamerica.com or tune in. You can also check us out on Live 365. And don't forget to download our podcast as well. The podcast of every show that we do is available on iTunes for your consideration as well. We are all over the place this morning. We've got Megan Landvatter who will join the show to talk about NFL free agency and the Green Bay Packers. Intern Laura has returned to the studio, so all is well with the world. As always, she will have her Laura's Thingamabobber later on in the show. After Friday's pillow fighting, Grant, I'm really not sure where we can go from there because I feel like she peaked way too early. I wasn't expecting her to peak this early.
She really did.
So hopefully, intern Laura can match, if not double, her production on Friday because the good people of the sports world loved it. Grant, you brought up the mention of what if Ronda Rousey did semi-pro pillow fighting. I'm pretty sure people would die. So I don't know.
There would be body parts missing.
It would not be a pretty picture. But what is an even prettier picture than that, though, Grant, is that Kentucky is now 30-0. They won last night in I want to say impressive fashion, but it wasn't. They really almost lost to Georgia.
Yeah, they almost lost to another unranked team, but they somehow were able to pull it out, which I don't even know. Because Georgia was up by at least 6 points with about 3 minutes left, and I'm like, okay, Georgia, just hold on to this. Just keep going. You can see the finish line. You have home court advantage. All you have to do is burn out the clock. And they didn't. They let Kentucky back in like every other team that throughout the season. And it's just really frustrating because it kind of shows how vulnerable Kentucky actually is. And
they are human.
And I would say they're not a fantastic team, but they still find a way to win games, so you can't take anything away from them. And on the game last night, they were showing the percentages of possibilities for them to win out the season, win the tournament, the SEC tournament, and then to win March Madness. And it was like 86% to win out the rest of the regular season and 80% to win the SEC tournament, but 36% to finish the season 40-0. So it shows that kind of shows statistically wise and by the numbers, it is really hard to do that. And so a team like Kentucky, even though they're not the best, if they can find a way to win and they can just duke it out in the trenches, they have the possibility to go undefeated, even though they do show a lot of vulnerability.
They do, yeah, and that's what worries me when it comes to tournament time, because it's great and all that if you win out the regular season, if you win the SEC tournament, that's great. We talked about this on Monday with Joe Wolfrath about Wisconsin, that it's one thing if the good people of the world believe that you can win that, which is good and all, but legends are made in March, in the March Madness tournament. If you win the tournament, that's what your legacy is. No one really cares too much if you have 10 SEC tournament championships. That's great. That's wonderful. Whoop-la, whatever. If you go out in the first 2 or 3 rounds of the NCAA tournament, people don't care as much.
Right.
Those conference championships are far scaled down in college basketball than they are in college football. If you win the SEC title in college football, well, especially now that even with the bowl season, the playoffs, all that, people care more about that. But in college basketball, the March Madness tournament is what you play all of your games for, all 30 whatever games a season for. That's your end game, is to make the tournament.
Yeah.
Whether or not Kentucky does go all the way through, who knows? I mean, they have a good chance, but we've seen them very vulnerable, kind of like with Wisconsin as well. They're very vulnerable right now. And even if they win out or however they finish the season, that's great now. But come tournament time, are they going to be able to last against real consistent teams?
And especially teams like Georgia or LSU, even though those guys are definitely not horrible teams, they're also going to be facing underrated teams that aren't necessarily all that bad, because if you can make it into the tournament, you're a pretty good team, even though you'll get the 16th seed and play Kentucky. But they have to watch out for the 16th seed and then the 8th seed that they'll probably end up playing, because you see these close games not against really ranked opponents, but you see them against unranked opponents. Yeah, you could argue that it's in the same division, it was on home court, but it's on a neutral court in the tournament. Mm-hmm. So you could have a bunch of fans come over from the opposing team, and they could pose a difficulty for you.
Yes, and I want to make the prediction now. I know it's a bit outlandish, but I don't think Kentucky is going to make the Final Four. I think they'll make it a fair way through. If I see anything, they'll lose the Elite Eight game going into the Final Four, because I think at that point they'll finally play a team capable of knocking them out. Right. But I don't think Kentucky makes the Final Four this year because of their struggles. The same thing with Wisconsin. As much as it pains me to say that, I don't think Kentucky or Wisconsin will make the Final Four because of their inconsistencies during the regular season against weaker opponents. For Wisconsin, it's against ranked opponents.
Right.
They've lost their 2 games against ranked opponents, and then they lost against Rutgers. For Kentucky, they've won all their games, which are great, but they've struggled severely against middle-of-the-road to under-average basketball teams.
Yeah, but once again, one could argue, even though it was close, they still found a way to win the game.
Exactly, and at the end of the day, that's all that matters, of course.
And especially in college basketball, when the ranking system is taken into consideration, it's not like college football, which some people are confused by, because college football, if you don't win like 50-0 against an unranked opponent,
useless. The game means nothing.
Exactly. Or if it's a close game, even though you still win, you'll drop down in rankings. In basketball, if you get the W, you're fine.
That's all that matters.
It doesn't matter what happens in the game.
It's true, and that's the funny part about college sports as a whole. Even between football and basketball, the 2 pinnacle sports of college sports as a whole. And how everything can change within a drop of a hat. It all depends. Right. The rankings, everything is different. But a lot of money does go into the tournaments. It goes into college football now that the playoffs are involved. March Madness is a big time for people to start placing bets. I'm not necessarily going to place any bets when it comes to the tournament time. I'm making the prediction that I don't think Wisconsin and Kentucky are going to be there.
I don't think Wisconsin's going to even crack the top 8 or the Elite 8. Excuse me.
It's hard to know for sure, but yeah.
It's with a team like Wisconsin, it's hard to tell because you don't know what team you're going to get.
Yeah.
Because some days they're fantastic and totally wear down offenses and destroy defenses, and then the next day they do that for the first half, but their offense doesn't show up one and their defense just destroys, but then towards the end of the game they just let them back in. So you really don't know what team you're going to get with Wisconsin. I said this last show and I'm going to say it again. There's going to be one high-seeded team in the tournament that's going to get upset. It's going to be Wisconsin.
Yes, definitely, and I think Kentucky's a close second right behind that. Looking around the rest of the sports world, though, there were a few other fun topics, Grant. I told you I'd kind of throw a few of them at you this morning and see how your reaction was. The reason I didn't give you a lot of prep is this, that I just wanted to hear your general reaction to some of these things, okay?
Yeah, because I really don't know anything that he's going to be throwing at me right now, so this is just going to be
all right, so the first thing I want to throw at you is that I'm going to give you a number.
Okay.
Okay, the number is $1.6 million.
Okay.
Okay. That is the amount of money that rapper 50 Cent is betting that Floyd Mayweather is going to beat Manny Pacquiao.
Oh, jeez.
$1.6 million.
I don't know. I'm a Manny Pacquiao fan personally.
You are? Okay, good to know.
I am.
I'm indifferent. I take Mayweather just because I know the name, I guess. I mean, I know Pacquiao a little bit, but I'd take Mayweather. But the fact that he's betting $1.6 million,
ridiculous.
The payout on that, I think, if Mayweather does win, I think he'll get like $600,000 like on top of that. I think.
Oh, I was
the
going to
return
say
on
that's huge.
Like he'll get his
money.
1.6 back, but he'll make, I think, an extra 600,000 back. 600 to 800,000, I think, is what They were trying to figure it out yesterday on ESPN, and I don't know if they fully understood it because of how crazy it was.
So is boxing like the new horse racing?
Well,
Can you bet similarly to horse racing? Because I have no idea.
I honestly don't know when it comes to the Vegas lines and picking and predicting. I'm not exactly sure. But the fact that one person, this is not a group of people saying, "Hey, let's put our money together and I'll bet." No, this is one guy.
It's ridiculous.
And I never saw the picture, but apparently 50 Cent did post a picture of the $1.6 million in cash on his Twitter feed because money and stuff. I don't know.
Some people have too much.
Exactly. An interesting story to all for you, Grant. You kind of pointed out to me, but I'm going to just get your raw reaction to it because a man that takes a lot of hit around the NFL and now college football is Jim Harbaugh. But he was not the bad guy for once yesterday, Grant. He was the good guy.
Oh, good.
He saved a staffer and some crash victims yesterday. They had an unfortunate, it was a serious accident, but Harbaugh was on scene and was able to save the people. It seems like everybody was relatively in good condition. No tragedies have been reported, but Harbaugh proving that as big as he is in the national spotlight, he can still be human and do nice, kind things for people.
And I think he's a great guy. I think the San Francisco organization treated him like garbage. It's good to see him go to Michigan. That's my little quip about that. But it's nice.
It's true though. I mean, that's that. Anyway, we won't get into it.
Right.
But yeah.
But it's nice. It's nice to see good things like that pop up in sports news, even though it's not a big deal. But it's nice to see that aside from all the people getting arrested for drugs and public alcoholism and punching
enough about the Packers defense
in the face or anything like that.
That's just the NFL. That's a normal day in the NFL, I guess. Anyway, or the Packers offense or defense, I suppose. With all those guys getting into issues. But anyway, last thing for you. When I say the name Curt Schilling, Grant, what do you think of?
I don't know. What am I supposed to
think of? You think of the bloody sock, the World Series, the everything. You don't think of that at all?
I guess
not. You're not a true baseball fan, Grant. To heck with you. No, I'm kidding. Anyway,
sorry.
I'm kidding. But another interesting story that came out about how Curt Schilling is a father. So you're a father as well.
Right.
But he posted a tweet the other day about his daughter, who has declared to play college softball, and she's going to be pitching. I forget for what university, but he posted a tweet, and immediately Twitter decided to blow up and make it their goal for the day to slander Schilling and slander her daughter. And with a sport like baseball and softball and bats and balls, there can be many innuendos that can go along with that. So I will not share any on air because I am a good Christian man and because I like my job. But you can kind of assume that there were many things thrown at Schilling, thrown in the direction of his daughter, saying, "Oh, I can't wait till she's here so that I can X, Y, Z," and all that and jazz.
Disgusting.
And Schilling did respond to a few of the remarks, but still, it's like, why? I don't understand the reasoning between why high school and college, and even there were professional radio people that I saw. I was able to look through some of the tweets. They weren't like very nationally known, but they were tied to certain shows and stuff like that were slandering Schilling, that were slandering his daughter. People were posting memes saying, "Oh, I can't wait to whatever," and it's just like, really?
That's just
gross. Obviously, number one, none of those people have a daughter.
Right.
Second of all, that's just, you don't do that to a woman as a whole.
Or anybody.
As a whole, but especially when it comes to a woman, yeah.
Well, and that just kind of once again brings up the age-old topic, it's like new now, is cyberbullying. Just like on top of bullying, now that
it's almost worse than bullying now because anybody can hide behind a computer screen or a phone.
Say whatever they want, generally without repercussion. Like unless you're like in high standing and you're well known, you can be some low life scumbag sitting behind a computer and you can say whatever you want to say and nobody's going to be able to do anything about it.
Exactly. Well, I hope the situation with Schilling does clear itself up. I don't remember hearing exactly what happened, but an unfortunate incident that I hope will get resolved and people will use as a lesson for the future as well. We're going to take a quick break. Megan Landvatter's in studio. We're going to talk NFL free agency and the Packers. This is the Bax and Grant Sports Show presented by Sports Radio America. Welcome back to the Bax and Grant Sports Show, presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Bax.
This is Grant.
Megan Landvatter's in studio now. Megan, welcome. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, anytime. We're glad you're here because we're talking about things very near and dear to our hearts, especially yours, as well as the Green Bay Packers, or just the NFL as a whole. There's all kinds of fun stuff going on. Obviously, the big thing that happened within the last even 12 hours is the blockbuster trade that has the NFL and Twitter and just the universe as a whole surprised. And that was the trade. It's a player-for-player trade. No money, no draft picks, no water boys, no this, no that. Just one guy for another. Is Kiko Alonso for LaShawn McCoy.
Yeah.
Buffalo Bills to Philadelphia Eagles, a linebacker for a running back. Some people are a little surprised why not a running back for running back, but it does help because it addresses the fact that the Bills have not had solid production from their running back spot because C.J. Spiller hasn't been very good, and then Philly's defense needed some improvement, so a young guy like Kiko really helps.
Yeah, it's interesting. Excuse me. Because the thing that I found interesting is that Kiko Alonso actually tore his ACL last season, so he did not play for the entire 2014 season, and he says he was 100% ready to go, he'll be great, everything like that. But I do think it's interesting because anytime that you make a trade and you get an injured player in return, you just never know. You never know how people are going to bounce back from ACL injuries, and a lot of times it seems that once you have one ACL injury that it just keeps bothering you. So I think it'll be interesting to see if he really is 100% and if he comes back healthy and is playing like he used to play.
Well, unless you're Adrian Peterson, then it doesn't give you any care.
Then you have an MVP caliber year the next year, which I doubt Kiko Alonso will do.
He's an exception to the rule, I think.
He's an exception to the rule in a lot of rules, I
right.
feel like. Yeah. But that's just a general topic for another time. But who wins this trade, Grant? The Eagles or the Bills?
I would definitely say the Bills.
Yeah? Even with McCoy's numbers down last season?
He's still, even though his numbers were down last season, he is still a great running back. It's interesting to see how he'll fit in the Bills lineup and their formation. But I think the Bills are a lot stronger now. All they really need to do is find a decent enough quarterback with Kyle Orton, I believe, is retiring.
He did. He went to his final meeting and never came back.
So
in a good way, he didn't die.
I was going to say that.
He retired. He just
wow.
cleaned his locker out and just went home and didn't. He checked out from the NFL after that. EJ Manuel is not really the option people thought he would be, which is unfortunate because he had an okay rookie year, and then his second year he just didn't really produce, and hence opening the door for Kyle Orton. And the Bills almost made the playoffs, too.
Right.
But in that division, though, it's hard to with New England looming above you.
Always. But if they can figure out the quarterback situation, I feel like they have a decent running back now to produce something for them. So the Bills, I think, definitely a contender. I was saying they should maybe see if they could go for Mariota. I think
You've been preaching Mariota, yeah. Because it's very obvious that Tampa Bay is going to draft Jameis Winston. They brought him in. He toured the facilities. He basically bought a house in Tampa, for gosh sakes. I'm going to laugh if they get to the draft and be like, ha! Just kidding.
Kidding.
We're going to draft a kicker. No, that would...
a kicker of all people. Jeez.
Well, that's always the joke in fantasy football. His first-round pick is you take a kicker. Or Tim Tebow. Or both. Never mind. Anyway, no, you don't.
Dante Culpepper.
No wonder I've lost the last few years in fantasy football. It all makes so much more sense now. But Megan, with this trade now, Chip Kelly says that this was part of his master plan. He supposedly, it's part of his master plan. They have Darren Sproles as their running back right now. There's rumors that C.J. Spiller, now that he is no longer needed, because Buffalo told him, hey, we don't want you no more. You're not coming back next season. If you're Philly, do you go out and try to get Spiller? Do you try to draft somebody? Is there somebody else a free agent? Adrian Peterson? No, I'm not gonna stoke that rumor mill. But
we don't know what's going on.
DeMarco Murray, Frank Gore. Nobody's talking about Frank Gore. Frank Gore's a free agent.
I think Frank Gore's a little washed up, honestly.
He is, but he still is a big running back that if he stays healthy can get you some good yards.
It's interesting because you look at it now and everyone is basically saying, look, the running back position is a dying position in the NFL. The NFL is very much a passing league right now, and if you don't have a quarterback, it's really difficult to be a serious contender. So, for the Eagles, Nick Foles is I think he can get the job done, but maybe, but it's just like I don't know.
Maybe.
We'll look at the Seahawks. I guess I'm gonna start.
You're gonna start it. Go ahead.
But Russell Wilson really isn't a great quarterback. Yeah,
because he doesn't have weapons. That's why.
Yeah, but he's also not the best quarterback. We're not going to get into that now, but they have a great defense and a fantastic running game with an okay pass game. So I do agree that the run game is definitely dying and it's hard to find decent running backs, but right. I think you could get away with it.
Okay, but then look at Dallas right now. DeMarco Murray, if he leaves, is Tony Romo?
Well, Tony Romo's not that great either.
It's the offensive line, though. That's what's keeping Dallas alive, is the offensive line.
So if they lose DeMarco Murray, is Dallas... Dallas was a great team last year. So if they lose DeMarco Murray, is Dallas just done? Is that it?
Potentially. It depends on who they sign as their running back or their next running back. If Murray walks, then yeah, it all depends.
Well, with the offensive line that Dallas has, they could put the water boy in there.
Yes and no, but remember the stat, Grant, we were talking about this last night, is that DeMarco Murray had 1,100 yards before contact out of his 1,800 that he had last season.
So that's pretty much offensive line.
Yes and no, but that's also pure ability, though, from within the player as well. Yes, obviously it is the offensive line that helps open the holes, but at the same time, though, 1,100 out of his 1,800 yards were before contact, which is a ridiculous stat that doesn't happen too often.
We should also note that DeMarco Murray apparently is willing to give Dallas a little bit of a discount. Not a huge discount, mind you. But he is willing to come back for a little bit less money back to Dallas because he enjoys playing in Dallas. So we'll see if they get that job done.
And I enjoy players like that because they're willing to take one for the team.
It shows they're not all about money.
And they're already making millions of dollars, and if they can open up maybe $1 or $2 million here in cap space to go sign somebody else that would benefit the team, I think players like that are great.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people, especially in Green Bay, would like to see that Randall Cobb would do something of that nature, because right now the rumors are that Green Bay are offering Cobb a deal between $8 and $9 million a year, while the dark pit of hell on the West Coast, known as the Oakland Raiders, are looking to offer Cobb between $11 to $12 million a year. Now, obviously, James Jones took that route. We saw how well that worked out for him. No offense to James. We love you, James. You're a great guy.
No, we don't.
Grant doesn't like you. Megan and I are pretty okay with you for the most part.
I like you, James. You're still pretty cool.
Exactly. Even though you go play for Oakland now. Whatever. That's your life decisions. We're over it. Anyway.
Overhyped player.
Anyway, Randall Cobb, the big issue in Green Bay right now is, what if Randall Cobb doesn't come back? Will the Packers make the playoffs? Is Aaron Rodgers going to still have another good year? This, that, the other. Okay. Enough. If Randall Cobb doesn't come back, it is not the end of the world. Yes. Packers' offense production does drop. It's obvious. You lose a guy like Randall Cobb, things are going to happen. Offensive production is going to go down. Davante Adams is not the answer. He'll be a good second-year receiver. He's got a long way to go. Jared Aberdarius is coming off an injury. Jared Boykin is busy clubbing in Milwaukee. Who knows what's going on with that? Jeff Janis, the best Division II wide receiver last season, barely saw the field because Aaron Rodgers didn't trust him. So, moving forward, yes, production is going to go down. Do they draft a guy? Yes, more than likely. if you lose Cobb, you have to draft another receiver because they're not going to sign a wide receiver.
Yeah, it's really tricky to see what's going to happen with this because you have a lot of options, and it's looking more and more likely now that Randall Cobb will not be a Green Bay Packer next season. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens.
They do have until Saturday at 3 p.m. to work out a deal. They have executive rights or exclusive rights or whatever the E word is to him until Saturday at 3 p.m. And then after that, it's a fair game.
Cobb. And realistically, you have to win with Aaron Rodgers right now. He doesn't have a lot of, yes, he has years left, but win right now. Don't develop through the draft and keep pushing off championships.
It's true. His prime years are right now. Aaron Rodgers has I think we can all agree, maybe another 3 years of solid prime activity?
No, more than that.
You think he's got more than that?
More than that. I think he's halfway through his career.
Well, I'm saying prime years.
Prime?
Think of, Peyton Manning was not prime last year.
Yeah, but how many seasons has he played?
Exactly.
18, and
he hasn't played that many, but yes.
Prime.
Well, I understand that, but
and
I'm saying
Aaron Rodgers has played, 8?
Eventually, though, a player is going to go from being at the top of their game to a great quarterback to a good quarterback to it's about that
He's got
time.
8 years.
And that, so
start worrying.
They've got about another 3 to 4 years, though, with a really, really good Aaron Rodgers.
They've got about 8 years. They're okay.
He's not going to be great for the next 8 years.
Yeah, he is.
Brett Favre was not great for his entire career.
His entire career.
Well, I'm just saying, though, he wasn't great all the way up till the bitter end.
Well, he was pretty good. He got a team like the Minnesota Vikings to the playoffs.
Which is a feat within itself, obviously.
And his first year with the team, they beat the Green Bay Packers twice. So, I'm just saying, he's fine.
I understand that.
He's fine.
I understand that, but I'm saying, like what Megan is saying, the time is now. Carpe diem, win now if you're Green Bay. Bring in the weapons needed to give Aaron Rodgers another Super Bowl, to give the organization, to make Ted Thompson look like a genius instead of a whack job that most Packer fans think he is because he doesn't do anything in the offseason.
Well, I do agree because they've developed Randall Cobb for the last couple of years, and he had 2 seasons ago, he had a fairly decent season, not a huge blowout season, but then last year, him and Jordy Nelson were the first 2 wide receivers in a while to go 1,000-plus yards and being on the same team. And I think if you have a duo like that, not a lot of teams have 2 shutdown corners. So when one guy is being covered by their top corner, the other guy has an opportunity. And if
struggle with that, I think that holds back a lot of NFL teams is that they don't have that. Those guys are good wide receivers. They're not elite. They're not great. Edelman might be out of the 3, might be great.
Right.
But Rob Gronkowski is the reason that offense functions. That's why they won the Super Bowl. You look at Seattle. Can you name more than one Seattle wide receiver, Grant?
Bolden.
Yeah, Doug Baldwin.
Or Baldwin, yeah.
Yes, Doug Baldwin. After that, then you've got some guy named Curse who caught the touchdown in the NFC Championship game. And then I don't even know after that because that's why one of the reasons, aside from others, that Seattle is lacking. That's another conversation, obviously, but you need good wide receivers in this league. It's a passing league.
Right.
It's a redundant statement, but that's the truth. Even you hear it all over the place. To be a good team, you have to pass the ball. That's why teams like Oakland and Jacksonville struggle. That's why teams on the bottom tier, that's why Arizona got knocked out of the playoffs first round, aside from other reasons, is they didn't have a good quarterback that would allow them to be a solid passing team. Now, Megan, one other question I will ask you, though, in terms of what's going on with the Packers, is that there was something said yesterday on ESPN Milwaukee by their lead Packers reporter, Jason Wilde, that if the Packers were to sign Ndamukong Suh, which would be, first of all, would break the internet within its whole, that there would be several things that would have to happen. First of all, Randall Cobb doesn't come back. Second of all, Brian Bulaga doesn't come back. And then third of all, the Packers need to realize that they are not going to touch their defense in the offseason, meaning that your starting secondary would be Sam Shields, you would have Casey Hayward and Micah Hyde, and then you'd have Clinton Dix, and you'd have Morgan Burnett. On the defensive side of the ball, that's fine. They're all young, talented guys. As Packer fans, I feel like we fully understand more so what those guys are capable of doing. If you're an outsider looking in, you're like, that's a really young, inexperienced squad. Well, yeah, but you don't know the insides and outs of the Packers.
They had a fairly decent season last year, and they're only going to get better.
Exactly. So, but my question to you guys, though, is at that cost, if you were to hear that deal happen, say, okay, we're not in Cobb and Balagago, but we're going to bring in Sue, arguably the second best defensive player in the NFL besides J.J. Watt, is it a good idea?
Bad move altogether, because then you're suffering. You're saying, okay, our defense is going to get better with Ndamukong Suh. Obviously, he's a great player. But to sacrifice your offensive line, put Aaron Rodgers possibly in jeopardy, and to take away a weapon for Aaron Rodgers, to cut both of those things out of the deal just for one defensive player, I think is a terrible idea for Green Bay.
And then also look at his relations that he's had with the Packers. He's stomped officially on one player and unofficially on Aaron Rodgers on a hurt ankle. And also with the bad press that he brings, his demeanor, his personality, and just being really negative, even though I think some of the Packers organization could get that out of him, I just think that'd be really bad, because how can you trust a player that has had all these bad relations with your team?
Yeah, well, we gotta have to see, though. Free agency does open on Tuesday, so we'll see what happens with that. Megan, thank you so much for stopping by today. Where can the good people of Twitter find you again?
They can find me at Lawnvader812.
Lawnvader812. Megan Lawnvader, a staff writer for Dairyland Express out in the Fansided Network and SidelinesApp.com as well. Thank you so much again, Megan, for stopping by. Grant, it's time for your rant, sir. If I can push the red button, of course, that usually helps. Technology, it's a beautiful thing, isn't it?
It's lovely.
All right, Grant, 30 seconds on the clock for your rant today, sir. A sport very near and dear to both of our hearts. On your mark, get set, go.
In curling action at Tim Hortons Briar, there was a little bit of a controversy after one shot. I believe it was the skip taking the shot. One of the players took his broom and actually, some could say hit, some could say tap, but there was contact with the skip and almost knocked him over. He looked back and he was like, "What's up?" The other guy was like, "Hey, we were just letting him know to get off the ice," but I was really upset when I heard that. Because
curling's a contact sport, Grant?
Curling is not a contact sport.
Are you sure?
It's known as the gentleman's sport, and it's known as a game that doesn't need officials. It's a game that you don't cheer when you make a good shot. I mean, international league, you can kind of get away with that, but when I was in high school, you didn't cheer when you got a good shot. And just to see that something like that is happening, and probably in my mind with an innocent and sacred sport, it's really bothersome.
Curling is a sacred sport.
It is.
Oh my. All right.
It's the gentleman's game.
A gentleman's game. Why don't we play curling? We need a curling team, Grant. All right, we're going to take a fast break. Intern Laura's in studio. We're going to chat with her about her thingamabopper and whatever the heck else happens. We got What If Wednesday coming up as well. This is the Bax and Grant Sports Show presented by Sports Radio America. Welcome back to the Bax and Grant Sports Show presented by Sports Radio America. Intern Laura is in the studio. Woo-hoo! Hi, Laura.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I am so much more excited with life now that you're here. So thank you so much for being here. It's time for your Laura's Thingamabopper, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is time.
One of the exciting parts of the show where Laura comes out and has some interesting, usually unique sports information for us.
I like to keep it fresh.
And that's why we love you. All right. Intern Laura, what have you for us today?
All right. Though I like to keep it fresh, I'm going to go back to something a few thousand years ago.
Oh, of course you are. Okay. Fresh but not.
All right. This may be something that you have heard of. It is called Ulama ball. and it dates all the way back to the
Oh yeah,
Mesoamerican
that.
period.
Totally remember.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I
Cannot
played
tell
that.
if you're being sarcastic.
Totally sarcastic.
Oh, okay. Well, it was actually in like some sort of DreamWorks picture as well in the Road to El Dorado.
Oh yeah, okay. Then actually, I do know what you're
Yes,
talking about.
it is a
Haven't seen the
game
movie.
very
Great.
similar to basketball and soccer kind of combined, where they actually have a rubber ball. Oftentimes they would use a human skull and they would wrap it in rubber. And then there were hoops at the end of this big stone
Never
court.
mind.
You
I
understand?
did see that
It's
movie.
all
I know
coming
what you're
together
talking
Okay,
about.
you know what I'm talking about now. All right.
Yes.
Cool. And they would only be able to use their hips. And they played for blood.
Shakir would be awesome in that game.
She probably comes
Because her
from
hips
a
don't
long
lie.
line.
Yeah, it makes so much more sense now.
It does.
Kim Kardashian would actually be famous for something. That'd be just crazy.
Ooh.
Shots fired.
Anyway,
Anyways, it's so interesting because they were only allowed to use their hips, and losers many a times, or the team captain, or even sometimes a winning team would be sacrificed because they were
they
into
won?
that. If they won, they
that's so
don't.
counterproductive.
Isn't it?
You won,
Guys,
Time to
we're
die.
winning. Let's start losing the game.
Yes, they're not really sure who was sacrificed, but it could have been the winning team as well.
Why?
Kill them all. Off with their heads.
Yeah, I just. Wow. I don't know how I'd feel about that. I'd be like, hey, you want to play? I'm sick
Good.
today.
Not really.
Can't play today, guys.
Gonna
Sorry.
call in sick.
Next
Not
day,
really.
everybody died. Wow. Glad I dodged that bullet. Oh,
There'd be no like reoccurring teams because they would all be dead.
exactly. There'd be no dynasties in this.
The returning champions unfortunately died after last season.
So, not sure where to go from there. So, I mean, it gives new teams an
Nope.
opportunity, but at the same time, I would hate to be a dynasty in this league because
Mm-hmm.
you die.
Hey, really no big off-season trades then. I mean, look at that.
Exactly.
Perfect.
Well, are we getting Jim back? Nah, he died. Okay. Well, that's
They sacrificed him last month.
Yeah, we had to give up somebody, and his contract was coming up, so free agency's got a whole new game in that, I guess.
So the Elizabethan time had their big collars when they played soccer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, these people had their big rubber belts that they would used to hip the ball into those big hoops.
Imagine if you used those belts and the collars while you pillow fighted.
Yes.
Think of that.
We
Pillow
should
fought.
invent
We should pillow fought? Foughted?
pillow
Fought.
fight.
Foughted? I don't know. English does not always work well for me. It's my first. It's my second language.
Oh,
Actually, it's not.
What is
but-
your first?
Yes.
Floridian.
Floridian is my first language, yes. That's why we're excited to go to Florida. Laura, are you excited to go to Florida?
I am pumped.
What is the most exciting thing you're hoping to do while you're in Florida, aside from get an amazing tan?
Oh, I'm hoping for warmth. We don't have that right now.
No,
that luxury
no?
in Wisconsin.
I don't even. What is the temperature in Wisconsin right now?
I don't even want to
I
know.
don't want to know.
It wasn't too bad, but
But we're
still.
going to the Everglades,
Yeah?
and I have never been there.
Are you going to hold a gator if you can?
If I have the opportunity, I will hold a gator.
Gonna wrestle a gator.
I'd like to see that.
I will
I
get.
think a lot of-
We will
I
get
think a lot
video
of
of that
people-
if Grant wrestles a gator.
Gator wrestling sounds like a good topic for a Laura's thingamabob.
Ooh, I like that idea.
Maybe.
Ideas.
Just as a thought, it's 14 right now outside the studio,
14.
and it is 79 where we will be doing our live
Yes,
show in
it
Naples
I want
on Wednesday.
that. I want that.
Oh my goodness! I'm excited though to do our live show or one of our live
I as
shows
well.
on Wednesday. That'll be the next time, aside from Friday, that you'll hear us. We will not have a show this coming Monday because we'll be traveling and all that jazz. But a week from today, we'll be live in Naples, Florida. So make sure to check us out there.
I'm just imagining us on the beach,
Yes.
with our sunglasses on, like doing the
Doing
show.
the broadcast.
Yes.
If we can get Wi-Fi on Naples Beach, I will definitely do that.
Oh, that'd be great. That would be great.
I'll have to talk to my people. I'm not exactly sure. Be like, hey guys, we're gonna do a live broadcast. I need some Wi-Fi out here on the beach. If not, we'll do it in the resort or something. I'm not sure. But yeah, Florida's gonna be a lot of fun. Any other fun stuff for us, Laura, at all before you?
Oh no, just the one today.
Just the one. What was it called again?
It was called Ulama Ball for short. The
Ulama
full
Ball.
name was some very long, complex, interesting language.
Did
that I don't
llamas
know how to
ever
speak.
play?
That is the question, isn't it?
I would love to see llamas just using their back hips.
But I would hate
Hey, I'm
to see.
a trained llama.
Stranger things have happened.
But I would hate to see a little llama sacrificed afterwards.
Exactly.
Better than people, in my
Is
opinion.
it?
Isn't it, Laura?
All right.
I
we
think
learned
we're
some
gonna. All right,
interesting
I think
things
Laura's
today.
gonna go now. Thank you, intern Laura, for stopping by. Remember to check her out on Twitter at intern Laura BGSS. She thinks that llamas are more important than humans.
So hide your kids
Hide
and
your
hide
kids.
your llamas.
Hide your llamas. Well, no, the llamas would be safe, apparently, according to her. So
Well, I mean, if she can't find any people, she'll
maybe
probably
she's like
just
a llama
resort to
whisperer
llamas.
or something. I'm not
maybe.
sure how that works out for her. I don't know. Oh, gosh. Anyway, Grant, it's Wednesday, which means it is time for What If Wednesday. All right, Grant. I'm staying in the NFL for my What If. Where are you going?
NFL.
NFL? Would you like to go first? Or do you want me to go first?
I can go first.
All right, the studio audience has chosen Grant to go first. Go, Grant. What do you got for me?
All right. What if the Seahawks do not make it to the playoffs? Who takes their place?
In that division?
Just in general, who takes... Yeah, you could say in their division.
That might be... Because it's... Yeah. You can tailor it however you want. It's your question, Grant.
Who do you think, just in the NFC, who do you think would take their spot?
In the NFC. That's a great question. Wow. In the NFC, if it's not the Seattle Seahawks, wow. It's a very good question. I think Atlanta or New Orleans.
Really?
Yes.
You're not giving the Eagles the nod?
No, not yet.
Really?
They just got rid of LaShawn McCoy.
Yeah, but they still had a 10-6
They have
season.
a lot of issues going on still, though.
I guess.
The Eagles' defense needs to step it up.
But you're going to take Atlanta or New Orleans
because I trust their offense over them, yes.
After having 7 and 9 seasons?
Yep. That's what it is.
All right.
That's my thought, yeah.
And I guess they're not horrible teams.
They're not, no.
They just didn't have the best seasons.
Exactly. And you look at it, too, they've got a quote-unquote easier division than the guys do over there in the NFC East. I think that's what that is. The NFC East? The Cowboys and Redskins and all that's the NFC East? Okay, I just had to double check. Had to check with Megan, who's still in the studio. Anyway, all right, Grant, thank you. Thank you for your question. My question to you, sir, is what if hell freezes over, first of all, but the New England Patriots don't make the playoffs and the Buffalo Bills win that division and go to the playoffs?
Jeez.
What happens?
A lot. Boston explodes, first off. Boston is gone.
The Patriots win the Super Bowl and then don't make the playoffs. And the Bills! It'd be worse if the Jets won, obviously, but if the Bills win.
That would be the biggest story in NFL in a long time.
LaShawn McCoy leads the Bills under new coach Rex Ryan to the playoffs, and they win the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
finally.
The possibility of that is very slim. I don't see that happening, but if it does happen, I mean, kudos to the Bills organization.
This is a whole nother what if segment, and I should wait till next Wednesday, but I want to ask you this question anyway. What if the Super Bowl next year is the Bills and the Vikings?
That would be really interesting. Out of both of those teams, though, I could see the Vikings getting there a little bit more than the Buffalo Bills.
Well, yeah, of course. And I feel like with both of those teams now, especially if the Bills draft Mariota or whoever they end up using for quarterback next year, you never know where they're going to go. They got a good wide receiver, Sammy Watkins, up and coming. We'll see where he goes now. The Vikings, who knows I'm assuming Adrian Peterson's not on the team. I've already planned 2015 Vikings team without AP. I still like that team as a whole going forward, so I don't know. I think that would be an interesting Super Bowl.
And that's a lot to say coming from an NFC North team that is a rival to the Packers, and we normally want to give them...
Because the Vikings would have to go through the Lions and the Packers.
Well, depending what the Lions do this offseason and how they perform, because they're a roller coaster team, so I don't even know how necessarily good they're going to be next season.
Well, I don't know if even the Lions know how good they're going to be next season, especially if
they ever do.
Yeah, right. I think this year they're like, whoa, we made the playoffs? What? No, you're kidding. No, really, you did. Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, I think they were on the plane to Dallas like, I feel like this is a trap. You know?
Were they kidding?
I know. And they get there and they're like, it's almost time to kick off. I don't know if this is real yet. And then they lost and like, oh, it's real. ESPN's ridiculing us. Okay. It's real. Life's normal.
The refs made a bad call.
Okay,
that's real.
Yep, it's real.
Makes sense.
Makes total sense now. But, yeah, I think that would be interesting, though. I think the Vikings are going to finish second in the NFC North next year.
Vikings? It depends if they can pick up some linemen on both sides of the ball.
That's true. We heard Connor Christensen talk about their needs on both sides of the ball for linemen.
Definitely, but since Teddy Bridgewater starting the season and having, I would say, better average to high end of average receiving core, they would be able to do some decent things throughout the season. I don't think they're going to beat the Packers. Well, kind of depends what they're going to do with Randall Cobb and what they do with receivers. But I don't think they can get through the Packers. I think Packers do take the 1 spot. But it would be interesting to see that 2-3 spot is definitely up for grabs, and the Bears definitely have the 4
they still
locked
suck.
up.
The Bears still suck. That is just the honest truth. Until post Jay Cutler, even then, maybe, who knows. But
he's going to be making $17 million.
Must be nice. Anyway, this has been another edition of the Baxton Grant Sports Show presented by Sports Radio America. Grant, where can the people check us out again?
They can find us on Facebook at the Baxton Grant Sports Show, at BG Sports Show on Twitter, and email bgsportshow@gmail.com.
All right, for Grant Coppersmith, Megan Landvatter, and intern Laura, this is Bax. We will see you all Friday morning, nice and early. Have a good rest of your day. It's Hump Day, Grant.
Hump Day!